or speed rush, but he's got huge talent, long arms, great talent. Loved him at Tulsa. Tyler Smith was a phenomenal pick by the Cowboys.
Hey, we get a guest here. A new
All
guest.
right, let's go to that Niner guy. That Niner guy, how are you?
Krueger, how you been, my friend?
Yeah, I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I've just been hanging out, doing some work, and I saw you guys are doing a little calling, so I figured, hey, let's go bug Krueger for a second.
Yeah, there you go. Let's go piss in his pool.
Absolutely.
So what's on your mind, that Niner guy? What do you want to talk about?
Well, let's talk about the boys, man. We got to talk about the Cowboys. Gonna blow it. I love it. Let's face it. It's been a lot of Twitter nonsense and talk, a lot of Brock Purdy hate out in the universe, which is hilarious because you clearly aren't watching any tape or the game.
Where's the hate for Brock Purdy coming from? That's hard to understand.
It's coming from the guy who said that Justin Fields wasn't committed to his workout when he changed his complete diet, Mr. Dan Orlovsky, which is absolutely hilarious.
Dan Orlovsky, who ranked him 13th out of 14, and when he was asked about it, he said, well, I haven't seen enough of him. If you haven't seen enough of a pro football player when all you do is cover pro football, who's played 10 games, 3 in the preseason, 7 in the regular season, then maybe you're not working hard enough.
Well, he had 4 years of tape, so it's not like it's hard to go find him. You work at ESPN.
Seriously.
You get tape whenever
Punch
you want.
in a Betamax, Jack. Go watch him.
Well, I mean,
let us know what you see.
He didn't watch a lot of tape in his freaking pro career because he didn't play all that great.
Hey, Dan, here's what you didn't see. You didn't see him run out of the back of the end zone, all right? That's what you didn't see.
Yeah, exactly. But no, talking about the boys, though,
yes.
The Niners are playing the most athletic team they've played all year, I think, from top to bottom. Maybe Kansas City is that, but they're not as athletic on defense. They don't pose the mismatch man coverage issues that the Cowboys can pose. I mean, we got to be honest. It'll be a tougher game for sure for the 49ers, but should be a W.
Well, it's really interesting because I think you're right about what you're saying. I think the Cowboys, I actually kind of see them as kind of almost over pursuit type players on defense. And that maybe you'll see Shanahan use some of their incredible pursuit ability against them. And, you look at guys like Anthony Barr and Micah Parsons, they're linebackers, but they don't want to run backwards. They want to run forwards. They're much better players going forward than going backward. And Van Der Esch has missed some time, and I think he can be picked on in space. So I don't know. It will be interesting to see, Cowboys have a 4-man line, but they rush 5 almost all the time. They give you kind of with that 5-man surface, as they like to say, with Parsons on the line of scrimmage. And he's essentially like another defensive end. And they have DeMarcus Lawrence, Durant Armstrong, and Parsons, who are all incredible speed rushers, shooting at your quarterback. And then you get the UCLA kid, and then Hankins just kind of locks down the middle. So I don't know. I mean, that one's interesting.
Join the party.
We have now we're bringing somebody else in as well.
It's David.
David,
hey,
how are you? What's going on?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey, doing well. Just here on a Wednesday, came back from Niner practice, saw a little message that we had to talk to Brad Sham. Enjoyed that little dialogue. Then we said we'll go live, and then we said, let's take some phone calls. So here we are. David, how are you? What's going on your Wednesday?
It's going well. I was walking back from work, listening to you as always, and then I said I'll dial in 5, so here I am.
Awesome. Well, what do you want to talk about? You're looking forward to the matchup on Sunday, I would imagine, huh?
Absolutely. But I got to be honest with you. I am concerned about D'Amico and where his mind's at the moment. 4 interviews, that's a lot of interviews. And I've recently done a lot of interviews myself, so I know the prep that needs to go in. So very concerned about that.
Well, you mean that you're not saying this, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're kind of suggesting that maybe he's more concerned about his next job than the job that he currently has?
Well, I mean, I know that being a coordinator, you're going to have to put in a lot of time, and you have to be very detail oriented. But if you have something else on your mind, I feel like he might be missing a little detail here and there. That might be causing him to play a little more conservative than usual. Hence, just rushing with the 4, not really getting home. No exotic blitzes that we haven't seen in the past couple weeks. So,
well, here's the thing. I would say give him a pass. Why? Because I guess I'm not saying that you're wrong, because I haven't gone through I've watched the game 3 times, but I haven't gone through it with a fine tooth and comb and counted blitzes and where they're coming from. I'm just watching it, making notes. But to me, if there was one play that kind of stood out in the game, and I talked to Charles Omenihu about this, it was the Omenihu ET stunt on 3rd and 14 from the 19, late third quarter. To me, that I thought that was really interesting. You had 3 guys lined up on the right side with Omenihu the closest to the defensive left side. Then you had basically nobody in the defensive tackle position at the left side, and you had Ebukam in a wide 9 outside. So it looked like an unbalanced line with a gigantic hole on the right side. And then Ebukam, according to Omenihu, made the play by engaging both the tackle and the guard and kind of splitting them, almost forcing them into a combo block. And he's so strong and so slithery that he kind of was going to slip through. So they literally had to combo block him. And then Omenihu's job is to give that like a tick, like 1.5 seconds, and then loop around. And when he looped around, he saw that he couldn't sack the quarterback, so he just got his paw out there and just winged at the ball, and it popped loose. Bosa falls on it. The place goes crazy. The momentum shifts, and the Niners go on and win the game. But when I bring that play up, because that was a stunt that they do run. I don't want to say they run it a lot, but they've run it before, and it was a perfect stunt for that situation. And if a guy like D'Amico really wasn't engaged, I don't know if he calls that right there. So, I mean, obviously we're talking about anecdotal crap, right? We're not,
right.
Where none of this is defined in any way, but I hear what you're saying. I mean, if you're taking the time to interview with 4 different teams, how many hours do you think that is? It's probably minimum 4 hours.
And
right?
Just going back to that play that you were just talking about, I completely credit the defensive line. I completely credit D'Amico, but how much of that is actually because of Geno? He was holding onto the ball a little longer than normal. I mean, if that's a quarterback with a quick release, you don't get home. That fumble doesn't happen. That could have been a touchdown. So,
I really think, in a lot of ways, it's interesting you're bringing this up, because I know so many people in the beginning of the year obviously had so many concerns about the offense and what would the offense be, and the offense, and can they score? Will Jimmy turn it over? All these things. Now, even despite the fact it's a rookie 7th round pick, the offensive concerns don't seem that big. The defensive concerns, I think, will determine whether or not they win the Super Bowl. Can they play the ball in the air down the field? They didn't against Kansas City. Can they do it in these games coming up? And then the big question to me, and as far as I'm concerned, this is the ultimate question for the Niners the rest of the playoffs, is can the 49er defensive line make enough action up front to make that quarterback, in this case Prescott, maybe next week it's Hurts, maybe the week after that it's Mahomes, who knows, maybe Allen, but can they make these elite quarterbacks who have second level movement ability, can they bother those guys enough so that they can't connect down the field and expose Lenore and Hufanga and Gibson in coverage? That's my big question.
I completely agree.
Sorry to interrupt, guys. You get a quick Larry Radnitzer we're going to get to after you wrap this one up.
Gotcha. One last point I just wanted to make. I honestly believe the reason the defense is slacking a little bit is, I think you made this point with Grant possibly, but it's just that our offense is way too fast. I mean, our offense is scoring at a rapid pace. It's not managing the time as we should. I actually want to advise, if I have any say in this whatsoever, is for Kyle to take his time with the offense, run the ball, milk out the clock, especially in the second half. We were scoring how many points in the second half against Seattle? That means our defense was 25. Out there. Exactly. That means our defense was consistently out there. So it just
don't score so fast. No, I hear you. I think that's a really great point. If you're going to beat the greatest teams in this league,
keep them
you
on the
will
sideline.
have to play what they call complementary football. You're going to have to help out your secondary by running the football, and you got a ton of runners to do it. So, I agree with you. I really do. I think the key to the 49ers winning it all is their ability to play ball, to play time of possession ball with this unbelievable depth they have in the backfield. I mean, think about this backfield. They've got, look at all the runners they have.
Exactly.
I mean, Ray McLeod's a running back. Debo's essentially a running back. J.P. Mason, Ty Davis Price, Tevin Coleman's walking around the locker room. Not to mention you got Elijah Mitchell and Christian McCaffrey. I mean, there's no team in pro football that has more, could offer more of a diversified rushing attack than what the Niners have. Heck, you could run Danny Gray if you wanted to. They have an ability to use a lot of different formations and a lot of different personnel and run the ball a ton. And I think if it gets down to beating Kansas City, Buffalo, Philly, maybe even this Dallas team, that's what it's going to take. It's going to take more than just a great defensive effort. It's going to take complementary, smart game planning football.
Yep. Well, thank you so much, guys. I'm calling in from New York. All my friends are Giants fans, and they are rooting for us this weekend because they don't want to see the Cowboys. So
tell your friends. Larry Krueger from the Krueg Show says the Giants are going to Philadelphia, and they are going to beat the Eagles.
And then we're going to beat the Giants.
And we're going to beat the Giants. I really believe that. The Giants are going to beat the Eagles. I'm convinced the Giants are going to beat the Eagles. If they don't beat them, they're going to give them a hell of a game.
Yep. Well, thank you so much, guys. Have a great night.
All right, David.
Have a great one, David.
Appreciate
Take this Larry Radnich right here, and then we can get back to Niner Guy.
Larry Radnich, $4.99. Thank you, Larry. He says, if you could insert one person from the 2012 defense into this one, who would it be and why? Ooh, I like that kind of a question. 2012 defense had Dante Whitner, Deshaun Goldson, Carlos Rogers, Chris Culliver, Terrell Brown, Navarro Bowman, Patrick Willis, Ahmad Brooks, Aldon Smith, Justin Smith, Ray McDonald. Wow. I guess I would take Aldon Smith. I mean, Aldon Smith was just a freak of nature. He had a lot of problems off the field and probably continues to have problems off the field, but he might be one of the greatest defensive end talents I've ever seen. I shook hands with this guy one time, and I just couldn't believe it. I was like, ridiculous hands. I mean, monster hands. And then he was like one of my go-to interviews, 2012, 2013, after games, because he was just such had great perspective on the game he had just played and was always willing to talk about it. So, man, it's kind of sad that Aldon Smith, couldn't fulfill all that potential, because what he looked like at the beginning of his career was a Canton, Ohio Hall of Fame bound defensive end. So I would take him. I would take Aldon Smith, though. You know what? You can never go wrong with Bowman or Willis, but and the Cowboys awfully good. It wouldn't be bad to have the Cowboy and Armstead inside. I take the Cowboy maybe over what the Niners have opposite Armstead. Maybe there. Maybe Aldon Smith. And he was so big. Aldon Smith was lean at like 270, 275. He was just big. He was just cut bigger. If you looked at him in a picture, you'd be like, 245, 250. No, this guy was 275 and ripped. Aldon Smith would have been a perfect guy to do what they do right now, where Kocurek has them with that 4D end alignment, where it's basically Ebukam and Bosa on the ends, and then maybe Drake Jackson or a Menahue, they basically have everybody. I mean, they try to work everybody in at that interior spot, but they just have a rotation of guys. Who's the guy I'm forgetting? Jordan Willis. Yeah, it's Willis, and it's Ebukam and Bosa outside. Then it's a Menahue, Willis, Drake Jackson, or Kerry Hyder inside. And it just gives them that 4D end alignment that's so ridiculous. And Aldon would have been perfect, absolutely perfect for that scheme. Thank you, Larry. Appreciate that. Appreciate that one. And all right, what is the key to victory? What do you think? Do you want to go back? What did you say, Len? You want to? We executed
yes.
Giants Niners fan.
Yeah, we got him. Let's see if we can get some new people in here. We want to hear your opinions. As you see, you can call in or you can It's not a phone call. It's a click the link and either turn your camera on or off. Fine with your camera on. We'd like to see your face, who we're talking to. But if not, you can be anonymous and talk through your screen name. But here you go. So come on in. And
Tina Turner and Hooch says, pretty sure Larry just said Tevin Campbell instead of Tevin Coleman. If I did, I'm sorry.
Were you mixing it up, Larry?
Did I confuse my Colemans and my Campbells? Tevin Coleman. But yeah, just looking at this matchup, I think, there's a couple things that have to happen in this game. One, the 49er offensive front has got to be able to handle Dallas's rush. Now, to me, this is situational. I think Dallas looks like a front-running team that if you're an offensive line and you're dealing out the pain to them and you're running the ball a lot and rolling downhill, I think they're a defensive line that by the fourth quarter, the Niner offensive line can push that defensive line around. But if Dallas gets up 14 points, if Dallas got up 21 points, if Dallas, got up on the scoreboard and then there was some separation there, then yeah, I think Mike McGlinchey and Trent Williams could struggle with Dallas's edge rushers because they're just going to be pinning their ears back. They're not going to play the run at all, and they're just going to be hunting the quarterback. So to me, this is going to be a really interesting game. The other thing I would say is, look for Brock Purdy to step up in the pocket. The one thing that we don't want to see is we don't want to see him escape out the back door. All right, let's go to the call here. We have Niners for life.
Roger Niner.
No, Niners for life, baby.
Woo! How are you, man? What's up? Welcome. You're on the Krueg Show.
No, just here, watching the Larry Krueg Show. Shout out to you, man. Shout out to Grant Cohn and Papa Cohn. You feel me? I just want to say Niners taking it all this year. You feel me?
Yes. Tell me, give me your number one reason why.
Well, honestly, if you look very closely throughout this season, they've been consistent with the defense. Pressure on the quarterback. I mean, Hufanga, he was doing good at the beginning of the season. He's done very good this year. I do think he deserves that Pro Bowler, but he hasn't been as effective as he has in the middle of the season, end of the season, and during this postseason currently. I mean, they've only had one game, but I mean, if you want to be realistic here, the whole defense is consistent, and I just don't think that any offense can. I think the only team that really can, how should I say this, actually put up some points against them is, I think, the Kansas City Chiefs, and which I do think that will be the Super Bowl rematch.
Oh, we're getting Niners Chiefs again?
I think so. I really do think so.
I mean,
if you look at the way Patrick Mahomes is playing, he's playing like Houdini out there. I mean, he could. I mean, the Niners couldn't stop him. I mean, the Niners only had 4 losses this year, and the Chiefs is one of the blowouts they've had. So I mean, if you think about it, I mean, they've gotten some players back. The Chiefs as well have gotten some players back, but I mean, I think that's going to be the one.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, in that game, Andy Reid kind of toyed with the Niners too. I mean, the way he used McCole Hardman, but yeah, it's amazing. I always thought it was Tyreek Hill, and once Tyreek Hill was out of there, Kansas City wouldn't be any good.
I mean,
but it's not, man. It's Juju Smith is making plays. Hardman makes plays. Valdez Scantling makes plays. I mean, they just got a bunch of guys. Isaiah Pacheco, McKinnon. They've been using McKinnon a lot.
They are. They really are, and that's one thing that he's actually got developed and actually better throughout the years, I think he played with the 49ers as well, did he?
Yeah. Niners paid him a ton. He had a great year in Minnesota. Niners signed him in free agency, paid him a lot of money. He had a couple years of injuries. Eventually they had to cut him. Now he's in Kansas City.
Yeah.
And he's playing his ass off.
That's what I'm saying. He's actually got developed throughout the years. He's actually making noise in Kansas City. I just wanted to bring up another factor to the 49ers that they should think about before going into this game. Do not run Debo. Don't run Debo. Please don't do it. We got 2 more games ahead of us. You're
saying don't run Debo into a wall.
Do not run Debo.
I mean, I don't mind running him on end arounds outside.
At least
don't run him between the tackles.
At least not to Micah Parsons, because he's very effective. And he's injury prone. He's got injured once already. They just twisted his ankle last week against the Seahawks, and we don't know how he's feeling right now. So therefore, we got the running backs to do. We got Christian McCaffrey, bro. Use him like you guys spent all that money. You guys drafted all. You guys took all these drafts and you guys did all this stuff, and you guys don't even use Jordan Mason. We got another good running back right there, Jordan Mason. I want to talk about as well. He's a very good, effective running back that you do not use. Why? Why is that? Is it because he's
I know.
rookie?
So there's been many games where I thought, man, why not use Jordan Mason in the second half of these games? But you know what? If you use McCaffrey that much, then you could wind up in the biggest game of the year and have to lean on Jordan Mason because McCaffrey's not there. But then then they also traded for McCaffrey for a reason. He's a primetime player. He's, one of the whatever number best players in the league, top 50 or whatever he is. And they paid a pretty good price to get him. And they want to get their money's worth. But I'm with you. I would spread it around. You got that to me. If you say, what's the Niners' advantage? They're running back depth. McCaffrey, Mitchell, Mason, TDP, Ray McLeod, Debo on occasion,
Danny Gray.
Danny Gray. I mean, you got 8 guys who could run with the football. Run with the football. You know what I'm saying? I mean, run the ball and play complimentary ball. I'd have a run heavy scheme here. I would.
I think Kyle Shanahan just thinks too much when he's running the ball. He doesn't think about it too much. I think he gets a little too greedy or selfish. I don't know what the word is.
I think it's impatience. I think sometimes he wants to score now. They've got a quick strike offense, but in this situation, it might be best if their offense, used up the clock a little bit.
You want to learn how to
Dallas
manage
on the
time
sideline.
more, actually learn how to manage the clock, run some time through the clock, use your running backs at the proper time. We could use all these running backs throughout the whole game, and
no doubt.
They'd be
Niner for life.
fine.
We appreciate you, man. Let me jump.
Yeah. I just wanted to bring that in, man, and I hope the Niners win this weekend.
Give me a prediction. What's the final score going to be?
I think that the Dallas Cowboys are going to give Niners hell this week. I'm not even going to lie to you. I think it's going to be 21-28 score. I think Brock Purdy's going to come out at the end and make that perfect throw, throw it in there to Ayuk or Danny Gray. I think they might have something up their sleeve with a deep pass to Danny Gray. I mean, he's fast. We can't forget about these rookies out here who actually are fast and can use their speed and can actually catch, the ball in the deep field,
Well, I'll say this. I appreciate you joining us. Wait for Danny Gray's touchdown dance because he told me that when he scores, he's going to have a big-time touchdown dance. One super chat from 49er Faithful. He says, what are we talking about here? 49ers Cowboys both played the Commanders. The result tells all. Washington has a top 5 D. All right. On that note, we welcome in Niner Gang 323. Is that who we have? Niner Gang, are you with us? Niner Gang.
He's pocket dialing. Pocket dialed from the pizza place, Larry. I don't know. Niner Gang might be there.
Niner Gang going once. Niner Gang going twice.
He's like, oh, man, I accidentally called into the show. Here's a prediction.
38-24, Niners over Cowboys. 38. Man, if the Niners put up 38 on Dallas, I mean, first of all, that's really the story is that the 49ers offensively, since they put Brock Purdy on the field, they're scoring 30, 35 a game. I like so when you're scoring that many points, Carlos Guido says, Larry, that Pete Carroll postgame speech will be repeated by Mike McCarthy. We couldn't catch that kid. Yeah. The one thing about Brock Purdy, and M. Patel says, Larry is right. Step up into the pocket. As long as he doesn't try to scoot out the back door, because that's a high risk escape, right? Because now you're going the wrong way and you're potentially looking at the kind of negative play that could lead to a punt because you're going to get so far behind on the stick. So to me, it's really about his timing, stepping up in the pocket. And can he do that effectively? And if he can, that is really going to be something else. That to me is the question. Can Brock Purdy do what he did? There was a play in this game before we go to Diego here. I thought Brock Purdy's movement ability is the most underrated aspect of the kid's game. First quarter, Niners are up 3-0. It's 2nd and goal from the 3. Purdy basically carries out the play action fake to McCaffrey and then looks left, scans the field, nothing's there. Then he feels Nwosu and Bruce Irvin kind of bearing down on him. So he steps up in the pocket, and in one motion, he throws a perfect pass to the flat, to the running back McCaffrey. And it's just that it was very impressive. It was, creating, it was decisive, quick pocket movement that led to what looked to be an easy touchdown, but it very easily could have been a 10-yard sack. Both defensive ends beat both tackles, and they were sitting in Brock's lap. And instead of scooting out the back door and having the whole play blow up, and now you're just kind of running around looking for a home run ball, he stepped up decisively. And in one step, he saw McCaffrey, fired a dime to him in the flat. And, 3 seconds later, they're up 10-0. So it didn't, it's one of those plays that, it didn't look like much, but it was. It really was. It was decisive, athletic, quick pocket movement. And it's come to define Brock Purdy. All right. Diego TV is joining us here. Hey, Diego, how are you?
I'm good. Good evening. I was going to touch on exactly that subject. Sure, in a perfect world, a quarterback steps up into the pocket. But have you considered that maybe he's rolling out on purpose because he has better vision of the field when he does that?
Well, I haven't, there are, and we appreciate we're getting a little echo, so we'll take that one. You'll take your answer, as I say, off the air. But no, I would say that some of that can be by design. Some of that is not by design. Some of that is the quarterback just reacting to the play in front of him. But I agree with you. I like that by design. Why? Because Brock Purdy is 6 feet and change, and he does throw well on the run. I've watched him do it since minicamp, and he throws exceptionally well on the run to his throw hands. But we've also seen him run the opposite way, pivot around. I mean, that ball that he threw to Ayuk was a flat dime. I mean, Ayuk is kicking himself for dropping that thing. That could have been one of the greatest plays in 49er playoff history right there. Anyway, we do appreciate the shout out. All right. Do we have Count Club?
It's in 49er playoff history right
there. Here we go. Count Club, are you with us?
TV on in the background, maybe.
Dang.
Count, you got your YouTube on in the background, I think.
Oh man.
Yeah. You had your camera on there for a second. We saw you, but now we don't see you anymore. So who are we talking to?
Yeah, you had your camera on there for a second. We saw you, but
now we're getting it on delay. We're working through some of the bugs. But join us on the show. Now we've got Count Club on the line. We've got Carlos from Toronto who wants to jump in here.
We're working through some of the bugs.
How about this? Whoever can give us a picture. Oh, there we go.
There we go. There's our man.
Hey, fellas.
How you doing, buddy?
What's up?
I'm doing all right, man. What's going on with you guys?
Oh, man, we're having a good time on a Wednesday. I was down in Santa Clara doing some player interviews earlier today. Then we just stopped in. We had the Cowboys announcer on about 20 minutes ago, and now we're just kind of rapping with people, talking about the game on Sunday. What are you expecting that we're going to see?
I really think we're going to handle these boys like we did last year, for real. Like last year we had Jimmy. You know how that go with him.
Yeah.
But this year we got C-Mac, we got Purdy, and everybody else. It's like a different animal than what they saw last year. So I think, we're going to get these boys and handle them.
Well, last year the Niners went in there and just ran it down their throat on that first drive, and then Elijah Mitchell scored, and it just felt like the Niners were the more physical team. Now, I think Dallas might be a little bit better against the run, but still, I'm looking at that Jacksonville game a few weeks ago.
And that Philly game.
Jacksonville ran it at will on them.
Right.
Philly game. Yeah.
And Gardner put up 34 on the defense, so I'm like, woo.
Give me your prediction. What's the final score going to be?
I'm looking at 35-17.
Okay.
Maybe 35,
right.
20. I think we're going to get up to 30.
Who's the big star on Sunday?
Big star on Sunday.
Yeah, there's always going to be somebody who's going to shine bright. Who's going to shine bright? You know who it was this last week? It was Charles Omenihu.
Right. On the D.
He looked good.
He was beasting. I think both are going to get back right this week. And on the offense, I think Kittle going to have a big game because he really didn't do nothing last week against Seattle. So I think he's going to have a big game too.
You know, I like the Kittle call because if you say to me, who's Kyle Shanahan going to pick on? I think he's going to pick on Van Der Esch. I think he's going to make Van Der Esch or Barr cover down the field against Kittle or maybe even Donovan Wilson. He's going to make these guys cover down the field against Kittle. I think Kittle gets a big run after the catch play in this game.
Yeah, I see a couple of them.
Yep.
I see a couple of them.
All right, man. Thanks for jumping in.
Hey,
have a great rest of your Wednesday.
Keep up the good work. Go Niners.
Go Niners. Appreciate you. Let's go to Carlos from Toronto. Carlos is in Toronto. Hey, Carlos.
Hey, how you doing? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got you loud and clear. You're a Niner fan in Toronto, or are you just a Bay Area fan, or
yeah, big Niner fan. I don't know why you can't see me. I allowed my video to be on.
It's a Cowboy fan calling in from Toronto.
No.
Carlos, what's going on with your video? We can't.
I don't know. I like gave it permission. I don't know why it won't.
Sometimes it depends on if you're on a phone or are you on a computer.
I'm on my computer.
If you're using certain browsers, if you have a Mac, it won't work on a.
No, it's a Windows computer.
So it should be working on Chrome. Whatever.
No worries. Okay, we can throw your audio. I mean, we'd rather see you, but what the hell? You're here.
Yeah. So I guess I wanted to bring up something that maybe you would have noticed throughout the season, probably in the last 10 games or so. Like, I don't know what happens at halftime, but we always turn it around, and that's definitely somebody on the staff that's been paying attention and that comes in and loops in the coaches, both defense and offense. But I guess my worry is with all of our personnel being picked off to turn into coordinators and GMs and head coaches, are we going to see the same thing next year that we did this year with the first few games? It just takes a while. I honestly, personally, I think we didn't do so well at the beginning of the season is because we had pretty much a brand new coaching staff, and it takes a while for them to get back into the rhythm of things.
And now this is interesting. I think this is really an interesting debate because I think there's a lot of reasons for it. I think that you're hitting on one, right? They had a bunch of new coaches. I think that's one. I think it's also just natural that when you play in the conference championship, play in the Super Bowl, in this case, there was the conference championship, that it's maybe a little bit more, and you're in that Super Bowl or bust mentality that maybe September games early in the year are hard to get up for. But I think the other but the other reason for it is I think that and I was at camp all summer, the 49ers I don't want to say they don't work hard. They do work hard, but they're prioritizing trying to get through camp healthy. And I don't think they bang as much as other teams bang in practice. And I think that's one of the reasons they start slow. I think they're thinking about playing their best football in December and January, and they prioritize that, and they're willing to give away a game in September or October, or maybe multiple games to ensure that they're kind of all geared towards December and January football. It's a theory. I don't have anything really to support it, but that's as somebody who went to camp and has been in a bunch of camps, I've seen camps where the guys are, they're really banging heads and they're really flying around. I'm not saying the Niners don't work hard. I'm just saying that they kind of practice smart in the summer. They're not, they didn't lose anybody in camp this year, if you look at it. So I think that might be a little bit of a trade-off. They don't want to lose guys before the opener. I mean, Sean McVay sits all of his guys the entire preseason. The Niners play them in the games, but they're very liberal about rest for many of their top players throughout the majority of the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's a factor.
And what do you think about the halftime adjustments? It almost seems like at least the last few games, especially since Brock took over, there's almost a night and day difference. It's like they're feeling it out in the first half, and then they just execute in the second half, almost like the other team just continues with the same playbook. But they have like a secondary second half playbook that I'm just like, I don't.
It's funny you mentioned this with offense, because I actually have noticed it more on defense. Like in the first half of games, you'll see D'Amico rush 4 almost consistently, drop 7. But then in the second half, here come the stunts. Here comes the 5-man rush. Here comes the 6-man rush. Here comes the second down blitz. Here comes a first down blitz. I mean, here comes a corner blitz. Now they're blitzing off the slot. Now there's, I mean, the key play that Amenahue made was a great stunt. I think I see that more on the defensive side instead of the offensive side. But I'll say this: anytime you're doing well in the second half, that tells me, as an onlooker, that your coaching staff knows football, can identify what's happening on the field and adjust to it in real time. And that's high level stuff. So if you have, and that usually tells me you got a pretty good coaching staff. So anyway,
we have Greg T in the room as well. How you doing, Greg?
I'm doing good. How about you guys?
Now,
nice.
Doing great.
You guys
Greg T. Hey, Greg, what's going on? Where are you? Now, where are you guys? Carlos is in Toronto. Greg, where are you at?
I'm out north of Seattle, about an hour.
Gotcha.
So.
Niner fan, or how'd you find it?
Oh yeah. We went to that. Me and my kids went to the Niner game in Seattle. That was so much fun, man. It was really cool. There was a lot of Niners there. A lot of fans.
I'll say this about the 49ers. The Niners travel very well.
Yeah.
I mean, probably as well as almost any team. I expect to see a lot of Dallas, though, because Dallas travels well, too.
That's what I was wondering. I was wondering if it's going to be that way, too, because I'm from Mississippi, but I've been up here for a bit. And Dallas, they travel. They probably travel as well, if not better than the 49ers, in my opinion.
Dallas, I mean, when Dallas was here last a few years ago, I mean, I was shocked by how much blue there was in the stadium. So, that's just
went to Texas.
Yeah. Well, no, but the Cowboys, here's the bottom line. If you're 50, then you remember the 70s, and the 70s were Cowboys and Steelers. And if you go around, if you say who travels the best in the NFL obviously wasn't born in the 70s, but it blew up television wise in the 70s. So who were the big teams? It was Dallas and Pittsburgh. So who's got the biggest kind of army of traveling fans? It's Dallas and Pittsburgh, and then a lot of Patriots fans now, and a lot of Niners fans because of their long runs of success.
And the other thing that's kind of
on that, Larry. I mean,
what's that?
I was a military brat. I grew up overseas, and so everybody's from all 50 states in the Army over there. And all of a sudden, like, nobody has a home team, and there's more Dallas Cowboy jerseys and the Steelers than anything on that base. Everything else, nobody was repping it. They were going,
how about them Cowboys?
You should ask
Greg. What do you think? What do you think of the matchup? Who? Give me your prediction. Who's going to win this thing? What's the key factor?
I'm always going to say the 49ers, even if they don't have
There
a
you
chance.
go.
I'm biased. But I got some things that I'm concerned about. One of the things that I'm wondering about is what version of Dak are we going to get? Are we going to get the guy who throws picks all the time, or are we going to get what we saw on Monday night? That's one thing I'm worried about. The other thing that
has turned it over a lot.
We're going to get
in the second half of the year, especially, but he looked really good in this game against Tampa. Almost all of the big pass plays that he made seemed to be between the hashes. Am I getting that wrong? It seemed like every time I looked at him in this game going down the field, he was making a play between the hash marks.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I don't know if that means that Hufanga and Gibson and Jimmy Ward are going to be at a premium as far as coverage, but really their number 2 receiver is Dalton Schultz. Gallup obviously has to be dealt with, but to me, Gallup, Lamb, Schultz, those are their 3 guys, and then obviously Pollard and Zeke out of the backfield, and. The Niners on the second level with Azeez and Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner. I mean, that to me, that's the strength of the defense right there.
I guess my question with Dak is like for example, with Tom Brady, Tom does not like to get hit. Once you start hitting him, just like Aaron. Once they start getting touched, they get out of their game. I don't think Zach's that way. So I don't know. You just don't know what you're going to get with them. That's one of my biggest concerns. What do you think? You think he handles the physicality better than?
I don't think he's afraid. I don't. I mean, I think I watched him at Mississippi State, and good football player. He's physical. He has had a crushing ankle injury, so maybe at the beginning of the year, he's not quite as mobile as he used to be. Maybe he's a little bit more eager to get rid of the ball. I don't see him holding it a long time against this Niner front. I think they know that they got a rookie left tackle. I like Tyler Smith, but he's a rookie. And Tyron Smith had given up 2.5 sacks or something like that in the previous before leading into this last game at his right tackle spot. So I think the Niners' speed off the edge could bother those guys, and I think Dallas understands that. I think they're going to get rid of the football quick. I think they're going to be. It's going to be. If I had to guess, my biggest concern in this game is that Dallas. I think if Dallas comes out trying to establish the run, I think the Niners are going to shut it down. But if Dallas comes out taking shots downfield, attacking Diamador Lenore, and they're successful and they can loosen up the defense by taking some big shots, then I'm worried about the Pollard-Zeke combo coming on the heels of that. After the Niner defense, maybe panics if all of a sudden there's a bunch of the Niners secondary or Niner pass D is ranked 22nd in the NFL, and they're number 2 against the run. So I'm not worried about the run. I'm worried about Lenore and Gibson and Hufanga in coverage if the defensive front can't put some pressure on Dak.
See, I'm not worried about that because one of the things I like about the Niners defense, at least the secondary, is they tackle. They tackle very well. They stop. Yeah. You might get the 7 yards, but you're not going further than that because they pretty much stop you every time. So I'm not too worried. It's just usually here's the funny thing I've noticed is when I watch the games, the teams that do well against the 49ers, in my opinion, in the passing side are the ones who are willing to take the 7, 8 yards, 6-yard passes. Because like I said, they do tackle. And usually what happens, in my opinion, is those teams get tired of doing that. They want the big play and then they make the big mistake. Like they hold the ball too long and then Bosa does his thing or there's a pick because they're, because they waited too long. They didn't take that little buffer. Because that's the thing that makes me so frustrated is we do that, what's it called? Umbrella in the back end of the defense, and we let everything stay in front of us. So they get those balls.
It's a philosophy. It's a philosophy that says we're going to allow you to move the ball, and you're going to make a mistake. You're going to have a false start. You're going to have a holding penalty. You're going to fall behind the sticks. And then we're going to pin Bosa and Ebukam. They're going to pin their ears back and come hunt your quarterback when you make that inevitable mistake. So I think
that's why I think they're not as good in
turnovers. The Niners are leading the NFL in turnovers too, or in takeaways, I should say.
Takeaways, yeah.
I wanted to ask a quick question.
Yeah.
So I think one thing that I noticed.
This is Carlos from Toronto. If you're watching,
thanks. I think one thing that I noticed from last week is it was Greenlaw's first game back, and he was just so dominant in the regular, like earlier in the season, that he wasn't quite at 100%. It's the playoffs. He wanted to play, needed to play, but I honestly think if Greenlaw's cutting down that check down pass or something that's going out to the edge, it allows Warner to go back to his safety roots, and he can go into coverage a bit more and handle the middle of the field. So I guess my concern is how healthy is Greenlaw, and is he going to be as dominant, leading the team in tackles in this game? Because I didn't see it that much in Seattle, the way that he was in the normal season, and I chalked that up to him missing some time and not being at 100%. I think the bread and butter of this defense is our linebacker core, along with the entire front seven. But I think if Greenlaw's healthy, we are unstoppable, basically.
I asked Greenlaw last week how he was feeling, how overall the linebackers were feeling as a group. He said, man, we've all gotten our second wind. Then he went out and kind of wrenched his back a couple games ago. And, I don't think it was 100%. But I did see him in the locker room today, and he's not walking around with any braces. He wasn't limping. He looked pretty comfortable. I didn't get a chance to talk to him today, but I will tomorrow or the next day and find out, how he's feeling. A lot of times it's just a matter of going out, and I didn't watch the beginning of practice today. I will tomorrow, just to see how he's moving. But I'll say this, there's levels of this stuff. If he was really not feeling good, you wouldn't have even seen him in the locker room. He would have been off somewhere getting treatment. So that was good. As far as, I didn't see the practice report today, as far as was he limited? Did he practice? It doesn't tell me tons anyway, because he's, it's January 18th. They've been going at it since July. If he's not 100%, they're going to be easy with him on a Wednesday practice. But I agree with you, though. I agree. I think that he is a dominant player who should have been an all-pro. It's a crime that he wasn't a Pro Bowler. I mean, that's just a ridiculous thing. I mean, it's laughable that he wasn't a Pro Bowler. And he's one of the great violent players in the league, and he's a tone setter for the team. And Shanahan calls him Tyson. And he's admitted to me a couple times, he's McCrueg, I just love to hit people. and the way he says it, I mean, it's very believable. So,
Larry,
I think him going at full bore is a major key for the 49ers to win this game. I think Carlos, you're totally right on, because he's so dominant that when he's playing at full breakneck speed, he's like stands out. How about that pass play in Purdy's first start, the little hitch from Tua to Tyreek in the flat, and Greenlaw was inside the tackle box as he was releasing the ball and sprinted out there and made that solo tackle in space against maybe the NFL's most electric player. So he's a special player for sure, and they need him at full tilt.
A quick question, Larry.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you know this, Carlos, but Larry used to scout for the CFL. So I was wondering if he ever was up. Were you ever up in Toronto, where he's from?
I've been to Toronto. Yeah, I've been to Toronto. The Argonauts. Are you an Argonaut? Are you an Argos fan?
No, I mean, unless they're in the Grey Cup. I think the last Argos game I went to was the 100th Grey Cup in Toronto when they won, and it's just not the same. I mean, I've been to a couple of Bills games when they were up here, and I think what aggravates me a little is when the NFL keeps rumoring that, they're going to go to Europe, they're going to go to Europe. I'm like, there is a market up here where they don't have to travel much. Like, Toronto's the 4th largest city in North America. We have the fan base. We have the Toronto Raptors. Like, look how huge our fan base is there. The Blue Jays, right? Like, we have a market here in Toronto that is bigger than most NFL markets, and they're just not. They're not. They stopped having games up there. I don't know why.
Why are we getting there?
Somebody in the background?
Somebody have audio going in the background?
Nope.
Greg? No?
Not I.
No. All right.
No, I shut it off.
Somebody has their YouTube on in the background.
I muted myself to see if it was me. It wasn't me.
All right. I'm not sure who it was. But I'm a big fan of Toronto as a city. I enjoyed going up there, and I was there scouting in the 90s, like when it was American expansion of the CFL. So I think you guys, I forget who you guys had at the time, but might have been Rocket Ishmael.
Yeah, Ricky Williams was here for a bit.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So, Larry,
go ahead,
Greg.
No, I just have one other question. I would like to know if my brother from the north, from Toronto, what he thought too. Do you think that the team is getting full of themselves with all this winning and all this talk about them being the greatest team of all time and all that other stuff? Are they still hungry? Are they hungry to win? I guess that's my question for you, Larry.
Are the Niners hungry to win?
Yeah, because sometimes you get satisfied. You get satisfied with making it to the playoffs, and you get satisfied for that first win, and then you kind of like, okay, like Seattle, for example, they got satisfied for making it to the playoffs, and they were happy.
Oh,
and so I just wonder if
I would say, I'm sorry to mute you there. I would say that the 49ers are really, really hungry. You got to remember, Kyle Shanahan had a 28-3 lead as the offensive coordinator for the Falcons against Brady. That he could taste it. I mean, he was looking down at that finger going, man, that ring's going to look something like, really beautiful. And then all of a sudden Brady came back. So yeah, Kyle Shanahan, all about the ring. John Lynch, all about the ring. Jed York, all about the ring. These, when the Pro Bowl was announced and, the Niners had, I think, 13 guys either made it as starters or alternates. It was like to a man, whether they made it or whether they didn't. Every guy was like, yeah, you know what? We got bigger fish to fry. We're about the Super Bowl. So, when you have five Lombardis in the trophy case and you haven't gotten that, one since 1994, and you've been on top and you've now been to 2 Super Bowls and lost them both, damn right. This team is, I don't want to say it's Super Bowl or bust because I don't want to put that kind of pressure on Brock or the team, but in the minds of many Niner fans, in the minds of many Niner players, in the minds of many Niner coaches and front office people, it is Super Bowl win or bust. I don't think I'm overstating that. I really do. They're not overconfident at all. but they are also not just happy to be there. And isn't this a great story? And wow, Brock's been a great story and the future is going to be bright. No, they understand that you don't get to this point often with the kind of cast that they have, and they're all in it for the Super Bowl.
I also think they're the most seasoned NFC team there, right? Like they who do we have left? We have Dallas, Giants, Eagles.
Dallas, Giants, Eagles. I actually think the Giants are going to beat the Eagles.
Me too.
I really do. I think the Giants, Isaiah Hodgins, the kid from Walnut Creek, is in Northern California. He's playing really, really well. Saquon Barkley playing well. The Giants have a couple of blue chip tackles. Daniel Jones ran for 7 first downs last week. The Giants don't have an awesome defense, but Dexter Lawrence has to be combo blocked inside. Kayvon Thibodeau is one of the hottest rushers in the game right now. Azeez Ojulari is a very good edge rusher as well. So he's a former high pick out of Georgia. So, I mean, the Giants are in rhythm. Philly may win that game, but that will not be an easy game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you guys think that. How do you guys see that game?
When you listen to some of the younger guys, especially Brock, he mentions the locker room as vets, right? And when you look back at 2019, the younger guys in that locker room were looking at Richard Sherman and Staley as the vets, being like, what do we do in this playoff? Like, we've never been here before. It was Debo's rookie year. And now those guys have been there twice, almost gotten there, and now they're the vets, so they know exactly what to expect. And I just look at the other 3 teams that are left, and I'm like, none of you guys have winning playoff experience. Like, you have maybe a handful on your team that has been there before, but this entire locker room is just ready to go and know exactly the mindset that they need to be in. I think they're laser focused. Yeah. And I think the Eagles lost some of that focus, and they are probably a more talented team like in the long run, but I just don't think that they have enough experience in that locker room to know exactly what it takes to have the physical and mental game that you need to be able to take home the trophy. Like how many players on the Eagles team right now besides Kelsey were on that Super Bowl winning team? Not much.
That's a great question. Kelsey for sure. Maybe Lane Johnson. What year was that? Was that
2018?
2018. So Lane Johnson for sure. Outside of that, Fletcher Cox for sure. Other than that, yeah, maybe nobody. Jake Elliott, maybe the kicker. I mean, hardly anybody. That's how quickly things turn over in the NFL. But I'll tell you what Philly's got a terrific offensive line. The all-pro offensive line had Jason Kelsey at center and Lane Johnson at right tackle. And those guys both play for Philly. Now, is Lane Johnson going to go, or is Lane Johnson hurt? That's a big question. If it's Jack Driscoll instead of Lane Johnson, that's a step down. But then you've got Hurts. He's a great leader. He's mobile. How much did that Trevis Gibson's shoulder, he fell on Hurts' right shoulder. How much is that injury lingering? I don't know. Philly at times can really run the ball well. That's the one thing that I think is kind of interesting to see with Philly is how well can they run it in the playoffs with Miles Sanders and Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott. And then, Philly's got 3 real nice weapons: Dallas Goedert, A.J. Brown, and Devontae Smith. Smith won the Heisman. A.J. Brown, 6'3" or 6'2", 220. He's big time, a size speed guy. He can make plays down the field. And then Goddard's a well above average tight end. I think that's a big question. And then Hargrave on the defensive line has had a huge year. Number 97, Javon Hargrave has just been monster. The former Steeler was a free agent signing. And now you got Hargrave, Linval Joseph, Fletcher Cox. They did have an injury to Josh Sweat, but they can rush the edge with Reddick and Sweat, Brandon Graham, Robert Quinn, if he's healthy. This is a good team. Sue, Jordan Davis, Milton Williams, all big-time players. I don't love the Eagles as much on the backside as far as TJ Edwards and Kazir White at linebacker. I think you can pick on those guys. Slay's great. CJ Gardner-Johnson's awesome at strong safety, but he's hurt. I don't know how, James Bradbury's had a great year at right corner. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. I think the Giants will definitely give them a run for their money, as a division team that knows them well. But, if you said to me that the championship weekend's coming down to Bills, Chiefs in the AFC, Niners, Eagles in the NFC. Come on, guys. None of us would be shocked by that, right? That's basically, that's the chalk, as they say. Carlos, you got
one
else
more question. I got one more question for you.
Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
So, do you know what goes into the interview process for a coach? Like, because everybody's talking about our defensive coordinator interviewing with 4 teams. How much work is that? How much work is that? Is that just you talk about your philosophy? Do you have to have a plan for each player? Like, do you know how that works?
Well, yeah, usually, I mean, if you're going to schedule an interview, you're going to have, okay, this is what we do. This is our process. You're going to let people inside your world a little bit. And you're going to show them how you do what you do with your team. And then there's absolutely going to be a conversation about what your thoughts are of our personnel. And, what do you think? I mean, if you say, hey, you know what, if I'm going there, I'm getting rid of these 2 tackles and I'm getting rid of those 2 corners, and that's got to be the first order of business. And the owner or whatever, the pre-existing people are like, hey, those are foundation pieces that we don't want to move. It's probably not going to help you. But yeah, there's definitely, you talk about your scheme. You talked about what coaches you may be able to bring with you in certain cases. You may be talking about, how you see their scheme, how you see their personnel. But it's usually a wide variety. It could be a wide variety of approaches. Some teams want to go serious into schematics. Other teams, you may be walking into a situation where you're the head coach, but the GM is already working there. And maybe, there's dialogue about that relationship. And I mean, to me, the fundamental relationship in any organization is the head coach and the GM. So if they're coming in together, you don't have to worry about, are they on the same page? But if one is there and the others, and they're hiring the other, is the GM the boss? Like, is like John Lynch is the GM and Kyle Shanahan's the head coach, but is John Lynch the boss? Probably not, right? It's probably Kyle Shanahan. He makes more money, and I think he brought in John. So, but they're tied to each other. So
but I guess my question is,
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so my question is like, so do you think D'Amico's spending hours looking at their film this week while he's prepping for this game? Going through, how do you know each one of the players?
I think he's taking maybe an hour of his day and taking a look at these teams. I don't think he's doing any huge deep dive and taking game planning hours away from being the 49ers defensive coordinator. And by the way, as D'Amico's doing this, we might as well mention it since it's worth mentioning. Dan Quinn, the Cowboys defensive coordinator, is also up for about 3 or 4 different jobs, and he also is doing the same thing. So if there is some, maybe how these defensive coaches handle the combination of getting their team ready and interviewing, may have an impact. We don't know. It's a variable that's kind of out there, but some teams go hours and hours and hours. Other teams are very respectful of your time. So, it really just comes down to who you're dealing with and how far are you in the process and how far are they along in the process. Usually during this time of the year, these are first interviews, and that there'll probably be a second interview that might be more detailed forthcoming. And maybe that would be done in the week between the Super Bowl and the championship game. I believe that's how this window's set up. But they are very sensitive to that, right? Because, time is everything. And these guys, these football coaches show up at 4 a.m. and go home at midnight. And that's not like, hey, I know a guy. This is like what they do. That's like kind of like expected, especially this time of year. They're living there.
Sorry, yeah. So last question, I'll hop off there. But it's kind of related to what Greg was saying there. But I guess, if we lose more and more staff, coaching, et cetera, like, do you think that they'll promote from within or they'll go external? I know Vic Fangio was hanging around for a bit, and he'll probably end up with Sean Payton. But do you think that they'll promote from within?
I think they'd like to, but then it's also about how, do your coaches want it? Does Chris Kocurek want to be a coordinator? I get the sense from some of the answers he's given to these questions in the past that the answer to that is no. And how long have these guys been in your system? I do think the 49ers like their system and would love to keep Kocurek in the same system so they could go try to find a coach that fits their system. That's the thing with Fangio. Fangio has been known to run the 3-4, and right now they're having a lot of success with the wide 9. Doesn't seem like a fit. Would Vic change that up? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. My guess is that they will interview from within, but that they'll hire from outside. That'd be my guess.
Yeah. I mean, if they go to 3-4, would that mean more Alshire, Greenlaw, and Warner on the field at the same time?
Well, I mean, it really more than anything, I think what it really changes is it changes which defensive lineman do you want, because then now you're looking for 5 technique guys. You're looking for a 2-gapper. You're looking for like 3 real pluggers to absorb blockers. And how many of right now you've got a system where these guys are shooting gaps and penetrating and getting up the field and rushing the passer. How many guys, like if you're running, like right now, they'll go with 4 defensive ends. In passing downs, will be Bosa and Ebukam on the outside, and Amenahue and Jordan Willis inside, and sometimes Drake inside. Well, if you've got a 3-4, you got a totally different look, and you're going to have some pluggers in there, guys who are two gap players. Your down 3 become like these 295 to 325 pound, tackles basically, but they have to have enough read and react ability to have, speed. They've got to have, it's hard. It's really difficult to find the big bodied guys. Like a Christian Wilkins is like an ideal 5 technique in a 3-4 defense, because he's 295 pounds and he can run and he can rush the passer, and yet he can 2-gap and anchor and play the run and play stripe on a stripe and own both gaps. And, so he's more of that kind of a player, where right now they've got a little bit more of a penetrating, shoot up the field kind of a scheme with this incredible speed at linebacker behind it. I don't know if they want to change it. It would require, like, I give you an example. I don't know if Kevin Givens, who's a phenomenal defensive tackle, shoot the gap kind of a player who can, really give you some pass rush inside. I don't know if Givens would be if they switch to a Fangio 3-4 look. I mean, what are they doing? Are they bringing in? Are they leaving Givens? Are they moving on from him? So I don't know that he fits it. Kerry Hyder is much more of a gap. More. I don't think he fits a 3-4 either. And so they got a few guys. Amenahue, is he an outside backer? I mean, Charles told me today he's at 255. He's the lightest he's ever been, but he normally plays around 265. So that's. Some of these guys may not fit if they switch from a 4-3 to a 3-4. But, many of these defenses, and now that I say all this, many of these defenses are hybrids anyway. So, at the end of the day, it's not just, do you have the right personnel? It's like, do you have the right personnel that fits around each other? So, anyway. Carlos, great stuff, man. Thanks for chiming in. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Really appreciate your insights.
Awesome. Thanks for watching us in Toronto. Carlos from Toronto. Good stuff. I liked some of the video calls. Should we take a couple more video calls, Lynn? What do you think? We've been in here for an hour and a half. You're muted. You muted yourself.
Fantastic. A lot of good video calls. We got people from Canada. We got people from north of Washington. Well, North Washington, pretty much.
North of Seattle, yeah.
Let's see what we got here.
GB Vowel says Dan Quinn has 2 less days to prep than Ryan's. It's funny. I asked Amenahue about that today. I said, hey, you guys have a day and a half more prep advantage than them. Is that an advantage? And he's like, it might be, but you know what? And then he said, when you're out there on the field on Sunday, you're not going to sit there and be like, hey, we got a major advantage. But in reality, it's always more an advantage to have more time than less time. But, when you get out there on the field, it's the way you, as they say, it's the way you play the day you play. You like that? You like that, Len? The way you play.
Very rhymey.
Yeah.
Very groovy.
And you can't make the club in the tub.
Yeah, we're going to get, there you go. And you're rapping, Larry. Freestyle. Well, I just put it in there. Let's see if anybody pops in the next couple minutes and we'll do we can wrap
Greg
up
T
that.
says, sorry, Larry, my laptop battery was about to die. Greg, no problem. Appreciate you. Jump in anytime. But yeah, if you want to jump in on a video call, we can take some video calls right here. We love taking the video calls. The Krueg phone. This is the birth of the Krueg phone. Grant's got the cone phone. We've got the Krueg phone. Damn it.
Yeah,
we had somebody
Grant
in there.
Might
And then
even call in. Who knows? You can see. Here we go. That Niner guy's back. Oh,
that Niner guy.
Hey, fellas. I'm sorry I had to hop off for a meeting, and then now I'm done with meetings. So all right, come back and plug Larry.
As long as it wasn't Amway, we'll forgive you.
No, it wasn't. I promise.
So go ahead. And we also have T-Man, the football geek, in the green room, but he's having a hard time connecting. Go ahead, Niner guy. What's on your mind?
No, I just think this year in general has been such a bizarre but so entertaining season. Just from start to finish, the whole Trey, is Jimmy coming back, to now Brock just being the absolute stud that he is. It's been just so fun to watch, and I got to be honest, I know we're talking a lot of crap about the Cowboys, but I think this is the matchup that scares me the most because, again, they have the best athletes. I believe
I agree. I mean, Parsons against Purdy worries me because Purdy's escapability is one of his greatest traits, and yet Parsons has a little bit more speed than almost any defensive lineman that I can think of in the game today. He just has a little bit more speed. He doesn't fall off blocks. He's got great strength pound for pound. He's got great quickness, great explosion. So to me, I'd want to run either at Parsons and get him blocked, or run away in certain situations and just don't give him a piece of the pie at all. Just absolutely keep him out of the play. The Niners went to Dallas last year, and on a faster surface, that AstroTurf surface, they were the faster team. They were the better team, and it showed. I'm a little concerned about this surface because this surface is a little bit more random, and guys can slip down on this surface. I think the Niners are better, but on a mucky field, there's more. Anything can happen. Variable is a bigger part of the equation.
Oh, no question, Larry. I think, just because the fact is going to be outside, the weather could be poor. It's looking like it's not going to be, but then there's more variable to the game versus being in Jerry's world in the dome. So, no, that's totally fair. That's a totally fair point. But what the other thing scares me too is that Dallas has got a sneaky good athletic D-line and waves, kind of like the 49ers. Like, they got Dorian Armstrong. They got Sam Williams. I know Sam Williams.
UCLA guy is the guy that worries me. Osa Odazigahuza. Well, I forget exactly how to pronounce it, but he's always. I liked him at UCLA when I saw him when I was doing the Stanford pregame. He wears 97. Hankins is the run stuffer, and Osa is more of a pass rusher, and he's like 290, and he moves exceptionally well.
I thought Micah Parsons scares me, Larry.
What's that?
I think Micah Parsons scares me.
T-Man Football Geek is weighing in. He says Micah Parsons. Yeah. I mean, how Parsons is he reminds me the most of LT. If there's one guy that I say, oh man, Parsons, I haven't seen anybody quite as strong as LT since LT at that weight, but Parsons is close. He's incredibly strong, incredibly fast. You have to, they're going to have to fool him, run away from him, get him blocked, run right at him, try to neutralize him, combo block him, chip him, crack back on him. I mean, I'll say this, watching this last game against Tampa, shame on Tampa. Tampa left him unblocked like at least 3 or 4 times.
It
And
was 5 times, Larry.
yeah, I mean, it was a ton. Yeah, I think you're probably right. It was probably about 5 times. And that's
Hey, I got a
that's a
question.
nightmare. If you do that once, he could ruin the game.
Hey, any more news on Worcester Gage Jr. after that hit on Monday?
On who?
Is he out of Worcester Gage Jr. from Tampa Bay?
Oh, yes. He has feeling in his extremities. So that's the good news. Yeah. Feeling in his extremities for Russell Gage. And so yeah, Russell Gage is, they said, as far as I don't know what his situation is going forward, but yeah, he had feeling in his extremities.
I think his football career is going to be done.
Well, I mean, these neck injuries, I mean, anytime you've got the neck injuries, you always got to be concerned.
How about Hamlin? Any more news on Hamlin?
No news on Hamlin other than he's out of the hospital and recovering at home. Yeah. So that's what I saw from Hamlin.
He wants to get back on the field. I don't blame him.
Yeah. Well, all right, T-Man. Appreciate you.
I got to go to my Vikings podcast. It's the last one for the year. Then I'll be back here next week.
All right. There you go. T-Man Football Geek. There you go. That Niner guy, you still with us?
I'm still here. I'm just chilling,
okay.
Man.
Yeah. So what do you think? Give us a prediction on the game on Sunday. How is it? Close game, blowout game, low scoring, high scoring? What's your vibe?
I think it's going to be another even start, kind of like it was with Seattle. I think the Raiders game plan unlocked how to attack the 49ers defense a little bit. Not to say that they're bad. It just, they understand where the holes in the coverage are now. It's that deep intermediate third. It's the short stuff on third down when they're in the cover 3. It's the really simple, easy passes to keep the offense off the field because that's the high-powered part of the team right now. So I think Dallas is going to do something similar. That they're going to commit to the run because they always commit to the run. But I think in the second half, you're going to see the same sort of explosion we saw against Seattle because I think Shanahan's going to have a good game plan against this defense. Not going to surprise anyone there. And I think the Niners are going to win. I'm going 20-31.
31-29ers. Okay, I think this is going to be more like I'm going to go 31-24 49ers. Okay. I think it's whatever. I think we're basically in the same ballpark. I think Dallas can score. I think the 49ers are going to be able to run it on Dallas. I think they're going to be able to throw it on Dallas. And it's really going to come down to who takes better care of the football. And I believe that Brock has taken much better care of the football in the last 6 or 7 games than Dak has. And I think that's going to be the difference in the game.
The other thing, too, is that Zeke looks dead. I mean, I don't know if you've talked about it or watched the tape, but I watched the game tape last night from the Tampa game. That Tampa defense was atrocious, and Zeke couldn't get anything going. I mean, they had 10 guys on the line of scrimmage. No wonder why Dak looked like a superstar. They just play action them to death because they were so afraid of the run game. I mean,
Zeke is an old 27, isn't he?
Oh, very old.
That's an amazing thing if you really think about it. When I looked him up, I'm like, when I'm watching that game, I'm like, how old is Zeke? I'm thinking, what I was thinking is he looks 33. He's probably 29 because I know he's been worked hard. And then when I looked down, it said he was 27. I'm like, oh my God, this guy literally is not even anything close to the same back that he was coming out of Ohio State. And he's not even 28 yet. I mean, it's just shows you, man, the NFL game will take it out of your body.
He hasn't been the same since his rookie season. That rookie season where he was just absolutely electric. The second year he was good, then he started getting hurt. And I mean, just same thing with Gurley, man. It happens fast to these guys.
I can't wait to see Greenlaw or Aziz or Warner hit Pollard because I think Pollard is one of those guys. He runs upright, he runs fast, and he runs courageously. And in this game, I think he's going to get smoked. Niner guy, let me jump because I got Digital Drew wants to hang.
No worries. Take care, guys. Have a good one.
There you go. Niner guy. Now we go to Digital Drew, who joins us. I like the background. Hey, how are you, Digital
thanks.
Drew?
Wonderful. Coming in from Chicago here.
Nice.
Transplant from the Bay.
My mom used to live on 79th and Pulaski.
I know it.
By an expressway. South side by Ford City.
Yeah, I was over in Albany Park for a while and then moved around a couple of times, but yeah, I prefer Chicago over California at this point. At least
I
I can
love your
fly
game
home.
room, by the way, with the video game in the background. What's your video game of choice? Is that Knockout? What is that?
No, it's Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat. Nice.
Yeah, that's what actually brought me to Chicago. So,
Oh, the arcade game?
Yeah. I'm a producer over at NetherRealm, so we make
nice.
Mortal
you.
Kombat. It's awesome. Dream job.
So
Yeah,
you're in the gaming realm, the gaming world a lot.
Sorry, say that again.
So you're in the gaming world. Like, do you do
Yeah.
esports stuff, or do you make the games themselves, or what aspect?
Make the games themselves.
Very cool.
Yeah, part of the development team.
That's cool. That's cool.
It's
How
awesome.
long did you know that was your path? How long have you been doing that?
22 years now. About 22 years. Yeah, I tried so many other jobs and I was like, that sucks and that sucks and that sucks. I got to go do something fun. So I said, let's give games a try. 22 years later, here we go.
Awesome. Well, what's on your mind? You're a transplanted Bay Area person
Yeah.
who's a Niner fan living in Chicago.
Absolutely. And you know what? There's a lot more Niner fans out here than you might think. And I know you guys hit on it a bit earlier that, yeah, Niner fans travel well, even in the Midwest. And, no one gives us too much crap. I think Chicago's pretty welcoming. As far as the Cowboys coming up, do you think the Niners needing to deal with Micah Parsons causes just the idea of needing to deal with him or scheme him open? Do you think that either slows down the offense as a whole, or could that potentially throw off the rhythm that Purdy has built up over the last 6 weeks or so?
I mean, Parsons absolutely could disrupt his rhythm, and he absolutely needs to be dealt with, and he absolutely needs to be accounted for on every play. And we were just kind of talking about that. Tampa, maybe because of different things, different looks Dallas was showing, they had multiple situations where he was unblocked. Tristan Wirfs one time just kind of blocked inside on air and let Parsons, go shoot into the backfield. So that's a mental breakdown that cannot happen. They're keenly aware of Parsons' ability to wreck a game. And yeah, Micah Parsons in a lot of ways is the solution for what the problem is with Brock Purdy, with his off-schedule improv movement. Parsons has an ability to shut that down. So, dealing with him and having a plan for him on every single play absolutely has to be part of the game plan.
Do you think it slows down Kittle? Because I know that Shanahan really likes to use Kittle's blocking ability to take care of some of the problematic people on the front seven, or Juice. They can even throw use check at him. I'm curious if the Niners have the ability to deal with Parsons while still getting Kittle open to take advantage of those linebackers.
It's a great question. I think the other great question on this is, do you want to try to include Parsons in your action? In other words, do you chip him and then release him and then throw over the top of him? Or do you try to work the other side of the field away from him? He's got great pursuit ability. He comes flying across the formation. So it's like there's almost no part of the field where he can't get to. But at the same time, he's so aggressive at the quarterback that if you can fool him and use his unbelievable pursuit ability against him, I think that might be – I think, the one thing about Kyle Shanahan that is kind of respected around the NFL circles is that his run-pass fusion is so spot on. His play-action game looks so identical to his run game. And now he's got the quarterback who can carry out these veteran-like play fakes. And I think they're going to pick on Parsons. And I say pick on him. I don't think they're going to run away from him and let him pursue like a lot of teams do. I think they're going to engage him and try to chip him and try to throw over him and use his pursuit against him and kind of toy with him and get him thinking a lot instead of just firing. Because he's so fast that if he's firing without thinking and he doesn't have to think, he's too much. He's too much. He can snuff out anybody, really. I mean, he's the running back, the tight end, the quarterback. I mean, the guy, he's truly spectacular. And the problem is that he's not alone, right? I mean, you've got DeMarcus Lawrence, who's an accomplished guy. Durant Armstrong, he's got like almost 10 sacks by himself. You got Dante Fowler's on this team, Sam Williams, Osa in the middle is a big pass rusher. So I think more than anything, the key is play complementary football, run the ball at him. If you run the ball at him consistently in the first half, that's the equivalent of like body shots. And I think that will work by the second half. If you go enough body shots and make Parsons play a ton of snaps. The other thing that you got to remember is Parsons in the Minnesota game or in the Tampa game took a knee to the thigh, and it looked really, really bad. And he didn't move well after that, or at least as well. So how, I didn't ask Brad Sham when we had him on earlier. I probably should have, but how's that thigh? How's that thigh for him? If his thigh is bad and he can't run, maybe that will definitely be advantage 49ers. But that's one thing I'm looking for in the pregame to look for is how's Micah Parsons moving?
Yeah, has he come up at all? Has he come up at all on any injury reports throughout the week at this point?
I haven't looked at the injury report from today. Today would have been the first day for it. Let me see if I can find it here. But yeah, I mean, to me, Parsons is so because if he's got like a thigh contusion and it's really painful, maybe he's not as effective. And that's probably wishful thinking, to be honest. Let me see if I can see the participation report. Okay, this is just for the 49ers, unfortunately. It shows that today, Garoppolo, Ambry Thomas, Trent Williams all did not participate in practice. Trent was not an injury-related deal. He's just rest. It's just Wednesday rest. As far as limited today, Samson Ebukam, Juwan Jennings, Javon Kinlaw, but nothing on Dallas. So I'll have to look for Dallas later on. I'm sure they'll send one. But yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one because if Parsons is full bore, I think he's one of the real difference-making players in the entire sport. So neutralizing Parsons is probably the number one key to the game, wouldn't you say?
I think he absolutely has to be accounted for whenever and wherever he is on the field. And the Cowboys, if I recall, they line him up in many different positions and they spread him all over the line. So I think I don't know if they're putting this on anyone specifically in the O-line or if Purdy has to call out locations. At the same time, I think the Niners could get over-focused on him leaving the back door open, say on the right side of the line, because I know that's been a challenge picking up blitzers or blitzing packages on that side throughout the year. I'm curious if the Cowboys end up focusing on some of that film, moving Parsons out wide onto the left side of the line and then overloading with blitzes.
Well,
on the left side.
To me, that is interesting. They've been lining up Durant Armstrong at right defensive end. So if that holds true, he'll get Trent, and DeMarcus Lawrence will be on. DeMarcus Lawrence will be blocked by McGlinchey. Will they overload McGlinchey's side and with Parsons? I could see that. Where he's basically rushing off of DeMarcus Lawrence's outside shoulder. And then McGlinchey's going to need help inside, or he's going to need someone to chip Parsons outside. But yeah, I mean, this is why I think, if you say, what's the key to the game? It's first and second down for the 49ers on offense. They have to stay out of, mistakes and third and long. They get into third and long. Dallas has a ton of edge rushers and some really good ball hawk defensive backs. If they can get a lot done on first and second down, then it's third and short. And the 49ers, I think, have a lot of ways to beat you on third and short.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing I think gets overlooked with Dallas is they do have some speed at the linebacker position. I think for the first time, we might actually see a defense be able to cover the flats. And I know that's been an outlet or a security blanket for Purdy in a lot of his games is just finding that check down, hitting CMC out of the backfield, a few times. It's going to be interesting to see if the Cowboys actually play a spy on CMC, just have somebody sitting in his pocket the entire time. And that just buys time for that front rush to get open and get penetration and make Purdy's life very, very uncomfortable in that pocket.
That's a great point too. I kind of wonder though, who could that player be? I don't think Leighton Vander Esch matches up. I don't think Anthony Barr matches up. To me, it would have to be Damone Clark, the LSU kid who's 6'2", 240, super fast, very athletic. Maybe they'll utilize him to try to, a little bit more and try to spy. He's the kind of athlete that could stay with a CMC. Those other guys, Vander Esch, Leighton Vander Esch is, 6'4". He's about 260 pounds, and he ran well coming out of Boise, but that was a long time ago. I don't think he can hang with McCaffrey. McCaffrey on paper should be the mismatch that, swings this game to the 49ers in reality.
Yeah, and he's been proving that ever since he got here, right? He's been proving the X factor every week of just, okay, when all else fails, dump it out to the flat and watch the guy run. And he's amazing at it. His yak yards are just insane. And he can run the ball. Flipping the field a bit, going on to the defensive side. Just looking at the way the defense is set up, as much as disruptive as Micah Parsons is on that side of the ball, obviously Bosa is probably I would say more disruptive than him, but they're pretty darn close. I guess the same question to the Cowboys offense. Do the Cowboys have enough firepower to account for somebody like Bosa or any potential blitz packages and still execute their offense? I know Dak has been a turnover machine this year. Somebody read it off on one of the podcasts, and they were going for a while, just reading off. It had 2 picks in this game, 1 pick in this game. Is that enough just to disrupt that? Same time, the Cowboys do actually have quite a few options at the receiver slot, and I think it's probably the weak spot in the Niners defense, at least it has been of late, is that defensive secondary.
Got to take away Tony Pollard. You can't give them the balance. They can't have play action pass at their disposal. I don't think Dallas's offensive line is spectacular, but it's a big line. And I think Prescott will make mistakes. He looks for Dalton Schultz when he's in trouble. The Niners have done exceptionally well defending the tight end. But to me, this game comes down to take away Pollard, really hit Pollard. Don't let Pollard bust any big runs, and then tilt your coverage towards CeeDee Lamb, and hopefully you can stand up one-on-one with Michael Gallup, who's got ability. Michael Gallup is a really talented player. I loved him at K-State, and he's had some injuries, but man, I thought he looked good in this last game, and those are their 3 guys. The one thing about Dallas, they do have Turpin, the return man. They picked up T.Y. Hilton. You got the rookie Jalen Tolbert, but for them, and Noah Brown's there. But they're Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, and Dalton Schultz. Those are the 3 guys. So watch your cut-ups all this week on those 3 guys if you're a Niner DB and be ready to go. You gotta make them one-sided, and you gotta get ahead of them on the scoreboard and take away the run game, and then get them into some obvious passing situations. Be real physical with CD off the line of scrimmage. He's an undersized guy. Try to muscle him off the line, and then get ready to contest the ball in the air down the field. If there's one thing that I've seen from Prescott in the last month is that he understands that sometimes Gallup and Lamb don't get separation, but they have an agreement where he throws it up high, and those guys are great leapers, and they'll go up in a crowd and get it. And that means you got to challenge them at the catch point. That means you got to leap up there with them. So that's going to be a challenge because they're really good at it, and they're in sync with their quarterback. But I think the quarterback's kind of proven that he will make mistakes, and he will throw you a pass or 2 if you put heat on him. That's kind of proven. The question is, can they put heat on him, right?
Yeah.
If they can, you're going to win. And if they can't, man, I'm wondering, can Lenore and the Niner secondary hold up down the field? Because the one thing about Gallup and Lamb is they're both incredibly great at the catch point. So like they kind of remind me a little bit of Dotson and McLaurin in the Washington game, where those guys they're not just have the speed to get deep, they also have the ball skills that if you're running with them, they can go up in a crowd and make that play. So they're going to have to defend them. You're going to have to run with them. Then you're going to have to jump with them.
Yeah, we've seen, Lenore, his ball skills are kind of non-existent. He tries. I give him credit.
Turned.
He tries. He
made a great interception last week, but he also gets turned.
He did. And kudos to him for getting that pick. It was awesome. In the previous, I guess, 5 or 6 weeks, we've seen a defense out of San Francisco that's been, I don't want to say generic, but pretty much the same thing week in and week out. Almost like there were a couple of keys that they key players they honed in on, but it was pretty much rinse and repeat every week. Should this be the week where D'Amico reaches into the bag of tricks and starts dialing up some different looks, some different blitz packages, maybe shuffling up personnel a little bit? Because I think if they walk out there week after week having this same defense on film, I think their luck may actually run out. And I think some of it in the defensive secondary is a bit of luck, but I'm curious to get your thoughts on the scheming of this. Will they go away from what's been working, to dial up some pressure?
Well, I think what we've seen is that D'Amico at the beginning of games kind of makes the offense show their hand of cards, and then he reacts to it. And he's way more multiple in his defensive looks in the second half of these games than he seems to be in the first half. So when I say that, I'm saying he gives you different blitz looks. He gives different stunt looks. He starts blitzing on second down. So he'll go with, there's been games this year where he's gone with a 4-man rush almost the entire day. Later in the year, he started working in 5-man rushes, 6-man rushes. Now he's actually mixed it up a lot where he's got 5-man rushes, 6-man rushes, overloading one side. Now they're playing really detailed, intricate, TE and ET stunts, and they're working it. They've got great. The one thing the Niners have up front, they have great depth, they have great talent, and they've got great continuity because these guys have all been playing together all year. So it's like, they run some really intricate games. Like the one we were talking about with Amenahue and Ebukam, that's a timed out thing where Ebukam's got to go first. He's got to engage both the guard and the tackle. And once they're engaged and leaning towards Ebukam, that's when Amenahue from his tackle position loops around and pop the ball out on Geno. It's stunts like that, and they've run that one a few times. But yeah, I think it's going to be really vital that they cross the quarterback's face with some pass rush, and also take this Cowboy line where you got a rookie left tackle who last week played left guard. So now you've got a new left guard and a rookie kicking out to left tackle against Bosa. So you already have them under a lot of pressure. But if you can then send waves of different guys at them, give them a myriad of different looks, all kinds of exotic blitzes, I would take a group that has some guys in different spots and force them to communicate throughout the game and never let them get comfortable with one look twice. Just give them so many different looks at their head spinning. Why do you do that? Because if you do that, then there'll be some situation where they'll just pick the wrong guy, and they'll leave somebody wide open. And I think that level of confusion is going to help the 49ers. They're going to have to get a couple of, this Dallas team's got explosive weapons. They're going to have to get some explosive defensive plays in this game, either turnovers, big hits, sacks, tackles for loss. They're going to have to play a lot of this game in the Dallas backfield.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah.
Do you think if the Cowboys come out, somehow get into field goal range or score a touchdown, and this kicker misses again, do you think he sees the field at all? after that point.
I love Dak's like, hey man, there's nothing personal. I'm just such a competitive guy. He's on the sideline. Go for 2. Why are we going for 2? No, it's not personal. Nothing personal, man. I'm just a competitive guy. I don't know, man. I felt for that guy. I kept thinking of that commercial, Want to Get Away? That one,
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he's a veteran. He's not like some, guy who just his first game, and he's been a really consistent veteran, and he had the nightmare game of his life. I think it's got to be in their mind. I think it's not just the extra points. It's wet field, wind, outside conditions, kind of a stadium that doesn't have, it's not a bowl. It doesn't have the same, like if you're kicking at the end zone, the north end zone, there's different wind patterns than if you kick it in the south end zone. And, so what I mean, different weather patterns in the day, in different times of the day. There's just a lot of variables. Then if you can hold them and make him kick a 50-yarder, I think, that those missed PATs start to creep into your psyche. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's advantage 49ers. I really do. If anything, it's going to make, it may make Dallas go for it on a couple of fourth downs, and who knows, that could be advantage Niners, but that could be advantage Cowboys if they get it right. So it could kind of force Mike McCarthy into being more aggressive. And since I kind of think that he's kind of passive anyway, that may actually work against the Niners. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree.
I could see them being like forced to go for it and get it, as opposed to McCarthy going, number one defense, we're on the road, we're probably not going to get it, let's kick the field goal. Now, if it gets into that, do I kick a 52-yard field goal or do I go for 4th and 2? He might go for 4th and 2, and I'd rather see him kick that field goal.
Yeah, or at least try, right?
At least try.
Exactly. Do the attempt, don't do it. Yeah, I think that the law of averages will come in, and some drives will get extended, and our defense could be on the field a little bit longer. What's the forecast look like for Sunday in California? I know you guys have been getting
dry. It's supposed to be dry. We've had a ton of weather, but the field is a new field that drains incredibly well. So, like even last week when the skies opened in the pregame, opened in the postgame, I mean, we were doing the postgame an hour after the game. There literally were sheets of water had come down in the minutes before, and I took out my binoculars, looked at the surface, and it wasn't beating up on the surface. I mean, the drainage at Levi's is, you got to remember, it's a relatively new stadium. So the drainage of that field is probably state of the art. But it's supposed to be dry. So I would expect it's not going to be as fast as Dallas because of the turf, but it's going to be much faster field than what Niners Seahawks had last week. Then it's just a matter of wind, right? Who knows about the wind?
Yeah, then if it's dry and fast, you gotta put the advantage on the Niners, just both sides of the ball.
Digital Drew, I gotta ask you, you can go. Now when I'm in Chicago, there's a couple places I always go. All right, I like to hit Second City. I on the north side, really good little comedy club, comedy school actually. One of my wife's cousin is one of the guys who works at Second City. So he's like one of the comedians. Okay. So got to hit Second City. My favorite pizza. Now my agent says Lou Malnati's, which is not bad, but I like Gino's East on Division.
Oh man.
So now I want to get your thoughts on Chicago fare.
Yeah. So everyday deep dish, if you're going to go that route, I think it's got to be Lou's. They just went on the crust alone. It's just awesome. There's a couple other small places. Pequot's, if you're ever in the city and you want just this small, 4-inch personal deep dish, is amazing. I gave people crap because it's almost a religion around here, and then I went and had it, and I was like, oh my, that really? It is really, really, really good. Don't get the full size. So if you go with a group, everybody just get individuals. Don't get the giant one. Just get your personal deep dish. It's amazing. And Second City is one of the things I have not yet got to. here in the city. It's
Second
amazing.
City, very cool. I'm Navy Pier. You probably been out to Navy Pier,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know what? I'll tell you, the Art Institute. I mean, it depends if how cultured you are, but I always, as a little kid, I used to love when my parents would take me to the Museum of Science and Industry.
Yes,
which is on the waterfront down towards Comiskey, right? Isn't it down that? Is it not that far?
No, I don't think. I think it's almost across the way from Navy Pier, I think, or maybe that's the Field Museum. I'm not sure. I know all the museums downtown, though, are absolutely worth every trip. We try to get out there a couple times a year, just taking the kids out there. But it's amazing. If anybody's ever in Chicago, go. It is worth it.
Chicago's had a lot of bad pub in the last year for some of the violent crime, but it's an awesome eating city.
Yeah.
It's an awesome summertime city. I mean, to me, I look at Chicago in the summertime as it's almost like an outdoor, big outside carnival. It's just awesome.
Oh, yeah.
So many things to do.
The second the sun is out, there's not a day that goes on from basically May 1st until October 1st where you don't have a musical, festival of some type, some food festival. There is always something to do. You just open up, what is there to do in Chicago today? And you get 12 options that are all different from yesterday. It's amazing.
Also the architecture tour on the boat, very cool on Lake Michigan.
Yeah.
Good time there for sure as well. MF says Geno's East is solid. Went there in September. Thank you, MF. And hopefully that was my recommendation. All right, man. Digital Drew, good stuff, man. Thank you for chiming in Chicago. Have you gotten out to Soldier at all to take in some NFL, or what do you think?
No, I haven't gotten out there, but I'm making it a point next year. I'm just going to get out to a game because I know they're moving out to Arlington Heights here in the next few years.
No, I'm not looking forward to that. I mean, I have relatives that live out there, but come on. What about Wrigley? You've been to Wrigley a bunch, right?
Oh yeah. I go to all the Giants games when they're out here, and I sit in the bleachers because that is the best place to sit at Wrigley.
What do you think of the bleachers now with the scoreboards?
They're behind me. Unlike many people, I'm actually watching the game. So they're back here. Keep the beers coming.
To me, I mean, I love the Giants Park, and I've been to Fenway, and I've been to a bunch of parks. Wrigley Field, second to none. Second to none. I don't care if the team's good, the team's bad, and hot day, summertime. I mean, it's just an awesome experience. It's got to be a American sports fan bucket list experience.
100%. My dad flew out here from California, and we went out to a game at Wrigley, and just I mean, he's been a baseball fan since he was in diapers, and he just walks out and says, "Wow, I didn't realize it was so intimate. Like you're up on it. I mean, you're
right there."
You're right there, and they just don't make fields like that anymore. So the fact that they're able to keep it, they protect it the way that they do, and anybody that comes to Chicago, go to Wrigley. You will never have another experience like it.
They give tours in the wintertime.
They do.
Could you believe? Could you believe going out there on this week and go, hey, let me get a tour of Wrigley Field? I mean, first of all, what's it like there right now today? What was
it's actually fine. It was like 42, 43 degrees. We're uncharacteristically warm. There's not an ounce of snow on the ground. It's weird, actually.
When was it sub-zero? Has it been sub-zero?
Oh, Christmas. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we had a high day after Christmas or Christmas Day where I think it was -1. The low was -18 or something like that, and the wind was howling. Don't check your mail that day. Just get it the next day.
I came back from Army Navy. I was in Philly. I'm a West Coast guy, so I'm not used to cold weather. So it was like 25 degrees snowing in Philly. Get on the flight, stops over in Chicago. Got an hour in Chicago, and the person says, "We've just landed at Chicago." I think it might have been O'Hare International Airport, where the temperature outside is -32 wind chill. I'm like, -32 wind chill. I got to go outside. I got to go feel this, right? So I ran outside because first of all, I wasn't going to do it because I'm like, I'm too soft for that. But then I saw a woman carrying a baby outside, and I'm like, oh my God, if she can carry a baby outside, what the hell, I can do it. So I run out there, and I feel like, oh, I'm outside, because I was running outside O'Hare, but I didn't realize they still had all these heaters like above the right outside the door. So I said, oh, it ain't that bad. And then this guy goes, oh, no, but, there's these heaters. He points up. He's like, go walk over there and come back. And I walked over there. It was like pain. It was like, I just felt like people were like pinching me. It was just, it was that. I mean, minus 30 is wind chill is no joke. I mean, you probably got, what, 10 minutes outside before you're like, got to go inside? Maybe 15.
Yeah, if there's any exposed part, I think at minus 32 wind chill, you're talking frostbite in about 11 minutes.
Yeah.
12 minutes, something
that's just
something in that range.
As a West Coast guy, did you grow up in the West Coast?
Yeah, born and raised in San Jose.
Okay, so when you got, the first time you were exposed to that, how did you deal with that?
It was shocking. It was shocking. Like I had lived different places, making games and stuff, it'll take you all over the place. I lived in Canada a little bit, still not as bad as Chicago, shockingly. But no, the first time you walk out there, like you get snow on the ground, you're like, hey, I got to go out and shovel. Okay, let me just throw on this little parka, grab this. You're out there 5 minutes and you're back inside and you're wrapping up, let me get all this stuff around my head. And then you go back out and you're shoveling 10 minutes and you're dying from sweat. So you come back in, you peel it all off and it's sopping wet. And you go back out and you got snot sickles just hanging down off your face. And you just scream at a neighbor. Why do you live here? What? Why? It doesn't make any sense. There was one day I had to catch a flight to Mexico City for a business event. And that's when the polar vortex broke loose from way up north and came down here. And as I got into the Uber to go to O'Hare, the guy said, hey, look. And he had weather on his dash. And it said the wind chill was minus 68. Jesus. And I was like, are you serious? And so it was just a mad dash. He tried to get me as close to the curb as he could. I just grabbed my bag and ran in there. Even 15 seconds of getting into O'Hare was enough for me. I was like, that's a big no.
Digital Drew, great talking with you, man. Give me your final prediction on the game before we move on.
I think much like Seattle, I think it's going to be much closer in the first half. The Niners do make adjustments at halftime very, very well, probably better than any team in the NFL so far. So I think going into half, you might see the Cowboys up, or it might be, say, 17-13 Niners, or it could be 17-14, something like that. But when it's all said and done, I think the Niners continue their streak. It's probably going to be like 35-24.
Isn't that amazing? They're doing this with the last pick in the draft, 7th round pick. Every guy in that room believes in this guy. It's just it's an incredible story. I mean, there's been many fun Niner seasons. I don't know that any are as improbable and as fun as this one. It's just been incredible.
Here's one question for you before I actually get out of here. I was talking with some friends at work today. I have a slight prediction. Maybe I'm way off. Do you think Brock Purdy is the guy who stops NFL franchises from gambling on unproven but high ceiling prospects in the first round? Do you think they start to rethink how they evaluate the quarterback position?
Yes, I do. And people would say, "Oh, come on, Krueg, you're being over dramatic. One guy is not going to change." No, I think what you're talking about is there are teams, and I think the 49ers did this with Trey Lance, that draft quarterbacks because of traits that they like. And I think you're going to see less quarterbacks drafted on traits and more quarterbacks drafted based on production. For example, the guy for Georgia, he's an old guy. He's like 25. I think he's but Stetson Bennett's done it, and he's done it in the SEC. And I think the Brock Purdy's ascension is going to help all those guys, the guys who actually did it. They did it in the Big Ten. They did it in the Big 12. They did it, they played for, and also I think it's going to put more of an emphasis on, there are personnel guys that I know that would not draft a quarterback unless he had 40 plus starts, which means basically you have to be at least a 3-year starter. And So you're seeing a lot of transfer portal stuff. You're seeing a lot of guys move around. So I just think that they're going to go for more proven quarterbacks, or at least the guys who are more proven. Give you an example. Jake Haener played at Fresno State, senior, played a lot of football. Maybe last year he goes undrafted. This year, on the heels of Brock Purdy, Jake Haener's probably late 5th round pick, maybe an early 6th round pick. Because people will, they're not going to go crazy and draft these guys in the 1st round or the 2nd round, but you're going to see those guys moved up and picked in the early day 3 instead of, hey, we'll just wait until after the draft and compete for these guys as UFAs.
Yeah, I just looking at how many of these quarterbacks are coming out of the 1st round, and then you look at, okay, when do they actually hit? When do they become the guy? I think we can point at Daniel Jones this year. What is that, 3 years in? Do these front offices and coaches have enough time to actually wait for these people to develop into something, if they ever develop? And I think, obviously the Niners have a big question in Trey Lance with Purdy doing as well as he does. What do you do with him? I think Watson proved this year, you can't take that much time off and be effective. So I'm very worried about how Trey's development is gonna keep going. But unfortunately, I think he was cursed the second the Niners made that trade. Whoever they drafted in that slot, given the price that they paid, I just think the expectations would have been too high.
What's interesting to me is that look at the linebacker position. They used to be guys like Matt Millen, who were like 255, 260, and they had the big neck roll and they were pluggers. Now you look at the Niner linebackers, they run like the wind. Greenlaw, Warner, Aziz, they got guys behind those guys. Marcelino, McCrary Ball, Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles. Flanagan-Fowles was a safety at the University of Arizona. Marcelino McCrary Ball was a safety at Louisville.
Yeah.
Fred Warner was kind of a rover at BYU. So the linebackers if you're a 4-7 linebacker, you can't even stay on the field anymore. You got to run 4-5. So what does that mean? Look at the playoff quarterbacks. Look who we're talking about here. 49ers, Brock Purdy moves exceptionally well. Dak Prescott moves very well. Josh Allen moves very well. Joe Burrow is really the only pocket guy, and he even has movement ability. Jalen Hurts moves well. Daniel Jones moves incredibly well. Patrick Mahomes moves well. Trevor Lawrence moves well. The statue quarterback can't do it anymore because the athletes on defense are too mercurial. They're too fast. They're too explosive. You have to have high-level movement ability to play quarterback in the NFL. You have to be able to do it from the pocket and be able to scramble, but you have to have that high-level movement ability, or I think there's too many ways to scheme to rush you. So I don't think it's an accident that a lot of the best moving quarterbacks in football are still alive.
Yeah, and not just, point A to point B kind of speed, but we're talking about, juking players in a phone booth. Quickness in a small area goes so far in this game.
10-yard split, like Brock's got. Brock's got a 1.55 10-yard split. It's faster than Saquon Barkley. It's almost as fast as Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill was 1.51 and Purdy's 1.55. So, that right there. Wow. Really, even John Lynch said it today. I heard him in an interview. He basically said, hey, look, we knew we had a pretty good player, but we had no idea about the movement ability of Brock Purdy. And it's exceptional. And it's like, it was all there in that 10-yard split, but we're so tied to the 40 that, we didn't look at the fact that he was 95th percentile 10-yard split. And that means he's got elite quickness and escapability, and that's what it's about. So
there's one other thing that Purdy has that's elite, and that's accuracy. It's been a long, long, long time since the Niners have had a quarterback to where a receiver just had to reach out and the ball was there, or they were thrown open.
Right.
I don't
anticipatory throws in the red zone. That's what he really does.
Yeah, he
throws you open in the red zone in these tight windows.
Yeah, or in the back corner of the end zone. We saw it with a touchdown pass with Kittle the week prior.
Two to Kittle, one to Ayuk that he dropped.
Yeah. You look at that threading of the needle, and I'm not going to bring up you know who number 16's name. But we've seen in our history how much or how important that kind of accuracy is. And I hope, you know, NFL teams start looking for that accuracy much more over something like arm strength or just, you know, like a drunken Miller. Can he pull a car around a parking lot? Who cares? Does he win? And can he throw guys open?
There's a short way of talking about timing, touch, and accuracy. People talk about the it factor. He just has that it factor. And then when you really get into it, what is the it factor? It's timing, touch, and accuracy. And he does. And by the way, Druckenmiller. So I'm in the Niner locker room his rookie year. Walsh is still with the team. And, you know, this team's had Joe Montana and Steve Young for like 20 years at quarterback at this point. And Druckenmiller is in the locker room, and I'm standing. It's Young and then Druckenmiller's locker. We're right next to each other. And he's like, I'm like, hey, Jim, do you got a minute? You know, I'd like to do a hit with you on the radio. And he's like, oh, bro, dude, where's my playbook? Oh, dude, Walsh is going to be up my ass. Oh, like he's like that. And I'm like, I looked at my buddy who was there from the radio station. I'm like, he's like, Krueg, you look like you've seen a ghost. I'm like, dude, they just had Steve Young and Joe Montana, and now they're going to this guy. And he's like, I know, he sounded like some, you know, frat kid or something. I'm like, dude, I cannot believe that's the quarterback of the Niners. Sure enough. And on that draft weekend, when the Niners were touting Druckenmiller, they showed us videos of him pulling a VW bus.
Yeah, through the parking lot, right?
In a harness and he's walking like this with a VW bus. And I'm like, great, but can he play quarterback? Unbelievable.
We found out very quickly he could not.
Yeah, the answer to that, not so much. Not so much. All right, man. Good talking to you, Digital Drew. Hey, feel free anytime we're going live. Feel free to video call. We're trying to do more Krueg Phone video calls on the show, and we're really loving it. So
yeah,
jumping in.
Really appreciate the opportunity. Good luck and keep getting those subscribers.
There you go. Appreciate you. Have a good
Thanks
one,
a lot, man. Take
care. All right, Digital Drew. Close to 400 people still in the chat. And if you haven't hit like or subscribe, if you hit like, it helps the algorithm and helps more people find the show. If you hit subscribe, obviously that helps build our subscriber base. We had just gotten over 10,000 subs about a week ago, and I will give you the up-to-date number. We are currently, let's see what we are at. We are at 11,346 subs. 11,346. So if you're one of the near 400 that are still in the chat right now and you have yet to subscribe, if you would subscribe, I'll be your best friend for the rest of your life. I would really appreciate it. So 11,346, and of the 400 people roughly in the chat, if you have yet to subscribe, please do subscribe to the Krueg Show. James Jurin makes a donation. He says, tour Fermolab if you're interested in the front lines of science. Okay. I like that. I'll take that advice. Fear the Phantom says, keep up the great content, Krueg. Yeah, in fact, when I get off this, I'm going to contact a certain 49er quarterback who I am hoping will join us in the next day or so. So look for that. And of course, we'll do more streaming coming up. Talking a lot of Niners between now and game day, and hopefully right up and through Brock Purdy winning the Super Bowl in his backyard. That's the game plan. That is the plan, folks. 2 hours and 26 minutes into the live stream. Thanks to everybody who's been a part of the show. Thanks to everybody who's subbed. Until next time, I'm Larry Krueger. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And join us next time on The Krueg Show.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Here for whatever you bring me, getting handled. I answer to no one, I don't need to hassle. Yeah.